Imagine a shadowy veil lifting from the depths of time, revealing a moment when the entire future of humanity balanced on the edge of oblivion, not by some cataclysmic asteroid or volcanic fury, but perhaps by the subtle hand of an unseen intelligence tinkering with our very essence. Picture this. 900,000 years ago, the Earth whispers secrets of survival to a mere 1,280 souls, scattered like fragile embers across a vast, unforgiving landscape. Were they alone in their desperation, clawing against the winds of extinction? Or did ethereal visitors from beyond the stars intervene, weaving threads of alien code into our ancestors' blood to ensure we endured? This isn't mere fantasy. It's a question that echoes through modern science and the fringes of forbidden knowledge, leaving us to wonder if our origins hide a cosmic conspiracy far grander than we dare admit. As the chill of an ancient ice age gripped the planet, transforming lush African woodlands into barren wastelands, our early human forebears, perhaps Homo erectus or their enigmatic descendants, faced a peril so profound that 98.7% of their kind vanished into the annals of forgotten history. The survivors, numbering scarcely more than a small village today, clung to life for 117,000 years, a span longer than our own species, Homo sapiens, has walked the earth. Yet, in this crucible of near death, something extraordinary unfolded, a genetic bottleneck so severe that it reshaped our DNA, reducing our diversity to levels eerily low compared to our primate cousins like chimpanzees. Scientists, peering back through the molecular clock of our genomes, uncovered this in 2023, but whispers from the shadows suggest it wasn't random chance alone. Could extraterrestrial engineers have orchestrated this cull, selecting and enhancing a tiny remnant to birth the intelligent beings we became? Delving deeper into this enigma, consider the tantalizing theories proposed by researchers like Bruce R. Fenton, who posits that around 780,000 years ago, strikingly close to our bottleneck's timeline, alien intelligences may have genetically modified our lineage, introducing hybrid traits that propelled human evolution forward. Fenton draws from genetic anomalies and ancient myths, arguing that these beings, perhaps from distant star systems, edited our genome with precision, fusing chromosomes and amplifying brain functions in ways that natural selection alone struggles to explain. Imagine beings of light descending upon a desperate band of proto-humans, their interventions masked as miracles, ensuring that from the ashes of near extinction rose a species capable of pondering the stars. This isn't wild speculation without roots. It's echoed in Sumerian tales of godlike Anunnaki, who allegedly molded humanity from clay, or the Dogon people's knowledge of Sirius B, a star invisible to the naked eye, hinting at ancient extraterrestrial tutors sharing cosmic secrets. But let's step back from these starry conjectures and ground ourselves in the stark reality unearthed by science. In 2023, a groundbreaking study from the Chinese Academy of Sciences analyzed over 3,000 modern human genomes, tracing mutations backward like breadcrumbs through time. What they found was a collapse so dramatic it defied initial belief. Around 930,000 years ago, human ancestral populations plummeted from tens of thousands to that precarious 1,280 breeding individuals. For over 100,000 years they teetered on the brink, vulnerable to inbreeding, disease and random calamities, what biologists term the extinction vortex. Yet, against all odds, they persisted. Was it sheer resilience? Or did hidden forces, perhaps those same alien architects, provide a nudge, altering environmental pressures or infusing protective genes to tip the scales? This discovery didn't emerge in isolation. It built upon decades of genetic puzzles. As early as the 1970s, researchers noted humanity's oddly limited genetic variation, far less than expected for a species so widespread. Chimpanzees, confined to African pockets, boast more diversity in their small troops than all 8 billion of us combined. This anomaly screamed of a bottleneck, but the true severity eluded us until advanced computational models, like the fit-Cole method developed by the study's lead scientists, cracked the code. They ran simulations, double-checked data, and emerged with numbers that stunned the world. A 98.7% wipeout lasting 117,000 years. And here's where the mystery deepens during this epoch. 2 ancestral chromosomes fused into one, creating our unique count of 46, while great apes retain 48. This rare event, occurring precisely amid the crisis, spread rapidly through the tiny population. Coincidence? Or evidence of deliberate genetic engineering, as some fringe theorists claim, to accelerate brain development and set the stage for our cognitive leap? Pondering these layers of intrigue, from the cold facts of paleogenetics to the warm glow of speculative wonders, it's easy to lose oneself in the night. If these tales of ancient peril and possible cosmic meddling are drawing you into a peaceful reverie, perhaps while you're nestled in your favorite spot, consider hitting that subscribe button for more journeys on mystery history for sleep. And drop a comment below, tell me where in the world you're tuning in from, like the bustling streets of Tokyo at midnight, or the quiet hills of Tuscany at dawn, and what time it is there. Your postcards from afar make this shared exploration all the more enchanting, connecting us across the globe as we unravel history's secrets together. Now, let's return to the heart of this enigma, where science and shadow intertwine. The timing of this bottleneck aligns eerily with the early to middle Pleistocene transition, a planetary upheaval when Earth's glacial cycles stretched from 41,000 years to 100,000 years, birthing thicker ice sheets and plummeting sea levels. Africa, cradle of our ancestors, turned arid and hostile, with rivers drying to cracked beds and herds vanishing into extinction. Dental isotopes from prehistoric animals reveal frantic diet shifts as ecosystems crumbled under the weight of colder, drier climes. Early humans, lacking mastery over fire evidenced by scarce fire sites from that era, struggled mightily, their tools rudimentary, their shelters fleeting. But in this desolation, did otherworldly observers step in? Conspiracy circles buzz with ideas of extraterrestrial bases in hidden African rifts, where beings monitored and manipulated, perhaps triggering the chromosome fusion to enhance adaptability. Fenton's work suggests such interventions around 790,000 years ago, editing our DNA to foster larger brains and abstract thought, traits that would later define us. These theories, while unproven, add a layer of cosmic drama to the fossil record's silence, a gap from 950,000 to 650,000 years ago, where hominin bones are vanishingly rare, as if the Earth itself conspired to bury the evidence. Yet, survival persisted in pockets of refuge, perhaps near the Great Lakes or steadfast rivers, where water drew game and sustained life. Small bands of 20 to 30 individuals, bound by unbreakable social ties, shared knowledge across generations, innovating just enough to endure. Archaeological hints show a surge in fire use around 800,000 years ago, coinciding with population rebound, a 2,000% explosion that birthed new species lines. Was this technological spark purely human ingenuity, or a gift from starfaring mentors? Ancient astronaut proponents, inspired by texts like the Epic of Gilgamesh or African oral traditions, argue for divine interventions, where sky gods descended to teach fire and tool-making, averting total extinction. These narratives, blending myth with emerging science, paint a picture of humanity not as isolated strugglers, but as participants in a galactic drama. Our bottleneck, a deliberate refinement by advanced intelligences seeking to cultivate intelligent life. As we peel back these veils, the questions multiply like stars in the night sky. If climate alone drove this crisis, why the precise genetic fusions and low diversity we carry today? Could the super-archaic interbreeding events, dated to over 700,000 years ago, involve hybrid creations with extraterrestrial DNA, as some 2020 studies suggest? Or perhaps the Fermi paradox whispers here, where are the aliens? Maybe they've been among us all along, shaping our path from the shadows. The 2023 discovery opens doors to these speculations, challenging us to view our history not as a linear march, but a tapestry woven with threads from beyond. In this thin thread of survival, we find echoes of resilience, but also hints of a greater design, inviting us to dream of what lies hidden in our blood. This hook into humanity's precarious past isn't just a tale of woe, it's a testament to the improbable miracle of our existence. From 1,280 survivors emerged the ancestors of Neanderthals, Denisovans, and us, branches of a tree twisted by forces both earthly and, perhaps, ethereal. As you drift towards sleep, let these mysteries linger, a gentle thrill in the quiet hours. The bottleneck's legacy lives in every breath we take, a reminder that survival often hides extraordinary secrets, waiting for the curious mind to uncover. In the quiet corridors of the Chinese Academy of Sciences, where scientists sift through the invisible threads of our heritage, a revelation emerged in 2023 that sent ripples through the world of evolutionary biology. Led by researchers like Yi Xuan Pan and Haipeng Li, a team delved into the genomes of over 3,000 individuals from diverse populations around the globe, employing a revolutionary computational tool called the FitCol method. This wasn't just another genetic survey, it was a time machine constructed from DNA, allowing them to rewind the clock on human ancestry with unprecedented precision. What they uncovered was no gentle dip in population numbers, but a harrowing plunge. Around 930,000 years ago, our ancestral lineage teetered on the brink, reduced to a mere 1,280 breeding individuals. This bottleneck, as they termed it, wasn't fleeting. It gripped our forebears for 117,000 years, a stretch so immense it dwarfs the entire history of modern Homo sapiens. To grasp the weight of this, consider the peculiar uniformity in our genetic makeup today. Humans, for all our billions, exhibit strikingly low diversity compared to other primates. Take chimpanzees. Scattered in modest groups across Africa's forests, they harbor more genetic variation within a single troop than exists across all 8 billion of us combined. This oddity had puzzled geneticists for decades, hinting at some ancient constriction, a narrowing of the gene pool that left indelible marks. Earlier theories, like the one tying a similar squeeze to the Lake Toba supervolcano eruption 74,000 years ago, had gained traction in the 1990s but crumbled under scrutiny. Nearby, human groups survived unscathed, and climatic models showed the fallout wasn't as apocalyptic as feared. The 2023 study shifted the lens much further back, using advanced coalescent models to trace mutations like echoes fading into the past. These models, which simulate how genetic variants merge backward through generations, revealed a population crash so severe that 98.7% of our ancestors vanished, leaving a fragile remnant to carry the flame forward. The FitCol method itself is a marvel of modern science, blending statistical rigor with computational power to analyze thousands of genomes simultaneously. Unlike older techniques that peered through a foggy window, this one clears the view, tracking changes back nearly 1 million years. The researchers started with standard evolutionary assumptions, random mutations accumulating at a steady rate, but when the data poured in, the patterns screamed anomaly. Initial runs suggested errors. The numbers were too extreme, a high school-sized group sustaining humanity's future. They reran analyses, tweaked parameters, and cross-verified with fossil timelines. Every iteration confirmed the same. From approximately 930,000 to 813,000 years ago, the effective breeding population hovered at that perilously low 1,280. This wasn't extinction averted by a hair, it was a prolonged dance with oblivion, where inbreeding risks soared, and any storm or predator could have snuffed the line entirely. Yet, as compelling as this portrait is, it hasn't gone unchallenged. Follow-up research in 2024 and 2025 has poked at the edges, introducing layers of debate that keep the scientific community buzzing. A 2024 paper in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, for instance, proposed that this bottleneck coincided with early hominin migrations out of Africa, suggesting the crash wasn't uniform but tied to environmental pushes that scattered and decimated groups. Harshening climates expanded savannas, opening land bridges but exposing migrants to brutal scarcities like fresh water shortages. Not everyone perished in place. Some ventured forth, only to face near-universal peril. This adds a migratory twist, implying the bottleneck was as much about dispersal as decline. Then came 2025 insights that deepened the intrigue. A study in molecular biology and evolution questioned the severity outright, arguing insufficient evidence for such a panmictic, fully mixed bottleneck in the ancestral population. Researchers posited that what appears as a single crash might be artifacts of incomplete data or modeling assumptions, urging more nuanced interpretations. Another, published in Nature Communications in February 2025, used semicircular canal morphology from fossils to trace disparity reductions in Neanderthals around 110,000 years ago, hinting at later bottlenecks in related lineages. This suggests the ancient squeeze wasn't isolated. Perhaps ripple effects persisted, affecting Denisovans and early modern humans too. A March 2025 piece in Nature Genetics introduced a structured coalescent model, revealing extended periods of population structure where two ancestral groups mingled, reshaping our understanding of early divergences. These findings don't debunk the original but refine it, painting a mosaic of isolation and reconnection that fueled speciation. Amid these scholarly tussles, subtler enigmas lurk in the data itself, glitches that whisper of something beyond natural processes. In the raw genomic sequences, anomalies appear, unexpected clusters of mutations that don't align with random drift or selection pressures. These aren't mere errors. They're patterns that some interpret as scars from artificial tweaks. Enter the fringes where science meets speculation. Molecular biologist Max Myakishev-Rempel, in a 2025 preprint that stirred online fervor, analyzed genetic data from 581 families in the 1,000 Genomes Project. He claims 2% of children carry DNA fragments not inherited from parents' insertions predating CRISPR technology, clustered in ways statistics deem improbable. One case, a child born before 1990 with 348 changes on chromosome 3, mirrored in unrelated families. Rempel posits these as evidence of non-human intervention, perhaps extraterrestrial, aimed at evolutionary nudges or experiments. This idea explodes on platforms like X, where users dissect Rempel's findings with a mix of awe and skepticism. One post from a ufology account highlights his conclusion: humans likely underwent genetic modifications by extraterrestrial beings for purposes unknown, evolutionary or otherwise. Another ties it to abduction narratives, suggesting these edits align with reports of hybrid programs. Rempel, with his PhD from Moscow's Institute of Genetic Biology, isn't a fringe figure. His work challenges inheritance models, proposing these non-parental segments as relics of ancient meddling. Imagine, during the bottleneck's depths, when populations were small and vulnerable, an external intelligence slips in alterations, fusing chromosomes or amplifying neural genes to ensure survival or control. This fusion event, detailed in the original study, adds fuel to such theories. Around 900,000 to 740,000 years ago, two ancestral chromosomes merged into what we call chromosome 2, a rarity that spread swiftly in the diminished group. Molecular scars remain, inverted telomeric repeats, and degenerated satellite sequences marking the join. Shared with Neanderthals and Denisovans, it predates their split around 800,000 years ago. Natural? Perhaps, but Rempel's anomalies cluster near such sites, hinting at design. Conspiracy enthusiasts link this to ancient myths, Sumerian Anunnaki engineering humanity, or African Dogon lore of star beings imparting knowledge. If ETs tinkered, the bottleneck becomes a laboratory, culling the unfit while enhancing the remnant for intelligence, cooperation, or something more arcane. These debates extend to 2025's broader revelations. A Science Daily report from March describes genetic mixing between two ancient populations as the root of modern humans, upending single lineage models. Another uncovers a lost lineage shaping our evolution, detected through variance patterns. Could this lost branch be a hybrid infusion? X discussions speculate yes, with Rempel's data as proof. One thread posits transgenic engineering at scale, inserting code to mold physiology or cognition. It's tantalizing. Our low diversity, not just a bottleneck scar, but a signature of selective editing. Skeptics counter that these glitches stem from sequencing artifacts or overlooked recombinations. A 2025 study on Neanderthal bottlenecks, for example, attributes similar patterns to isolation during marine isotope stage 5, without invoking aliens. What if the data hides deliberate imprints? Rempel's improbable clusters challenge chance. His statistical improbability echoes in forums where users calculate odds, concluding intervention. This interplay keeps the narrative alive, blending hard science with whispers of the unknown. As we trace these genetic echoes, the bottleneck transforms from mere survival tale to a gateway of possibilities. The 1,280 weren't just lucky. Their legacy encodes questions about our very design. Follow-up works refine timings, some push it beyond 1 million years, aligning with earlier transitions, but the core enigma endures. In Rempel's lens, it's a canvas for ET artistry, modifications predating our tools by eons. Whether natural vortex or cosmic script, this discovery invites endless curiosity, a gentle pull into the depths of who we are. Deep in the sedimentary layers of Africa and Eurasia, where the Earth's ancient secrets are etched in stone, lies a profound silence that has baffled paleoanthropologists for generations, a void in the fossil record spanning from approximately 950,000 to 650,000 years ago. This enigmatic gap, often whispered about in academic circles as the missing chapter in human evolution, reveals scarcely a handful of hominin remains, leaving scientists to piece together a puzzle with more shadows than substance. Imagine vast continents teeming with life during the Pleistocene, yet our ancestors' bones are conspicuously absent, as if some unseen force swept them away, or the ground itself refused to preserve their stories. This isn't just a quirk of geology, it's a tantalizing riddle that invites us to question whether natural processes alone can explain the disappearance, or if deeper mysteries, perhaps deliberate concealments or otherworldly influences, are at play. The scarcity is stark. Across Africa, the cradle of early humanity, and into the reaches of Eurasia, where pioneering hominins might have ventured, the fossil tally from this 300,000-year window is alarmingly thin. A 2023 study in the journal Science, which tied this period to the severe genetic bottleneck we explored earlier, highlights how this chronological void aligns eerily with the population crash. Researchers note that with ancestral numbers dipping to 1,280 breeding individuals, the odds of anyone dying in conditions ripe for fossilization, such as rapid burial in sediment to ward off scavengers and decay, were vanishingly small. The continent-sized haystack of time swallowed the needles of evidence, leaving us with fragments that tease more than they tell. For instance, sites like Gesher Beno Yaakov in Israel or the Grandolina in Spain offer glimpses from before or after the gap, but within it, the echoes fade to near nothing. This absence isn't uniform. A juvenile vertebra from the early Pleistocene site of Ubaidiya, in the Levant, dated around 1.4 million years ago, hints at large-bodied hominins just before the gap, but then, silence. What makes this gap so intriguing is the taxonomic turmoil it breeds. The few specimens that do emerge from this era defy easy classification. Their features a mosaic that blurs the lines between species. Take the fossils from sites like Boxgrove in England or Cima de los Huesos in Spain. These straddle the edges, but core gap remains like Atapuerca or Billingsleben offer ambiguous clues. Scientists debate whether these belong to Homo antecessor, a contender for an early European pioneer around 1 million years ago, but cranial comparisons often rule it out. Instead, traits lean toward Homo heidelbergensis, that shadowy figure considered the last common ancestor of Neanderthals and modern humans, emerging around 600,000 years ago, just as the gap begins to fill. Heidelbergensis skulls show enlarged brain cases and robust jaws, bridging the erectus-like forms of earlier times with the specialized adaptations of later lineages. Yet, the gap's sparsity leaves room for speculation. Were there undiscovered species, phantom branches of the human tree that flourished briefly, only to vanish without trace? Or did the bottleneck survivors evolve in isolation, their transformations hidden from our prying eyes? This void coincides with the mid-Pleistocene transition's upheavals, when glacial cycles elongated and intensified, reshaping landscapes and ecosystems. Africa's aridification turned woodlands to savannas, forcing hominins to adapt or perish, while Eurasia's advancing ice sheets created barriers and opportunities alike. But why so few bones? Preservation bias plays a role. Fossils form best in stable, wet environments like lakesides or caves. Yet the gap's climate favored dry, erosive conditions that scattered remains. Scavengers, acidic soils, and tectonic shifts further conspired to erase evidence. Still, the enigma deepens when we consider outliers. A 2022 report on the earliest large-bodied hominin in the Levant corridor describes a vertebra, suggesting robust individuals around the gap's onset, but nothing follows for centuries of millennia. It's as if populations retreated to hidden refuges, pockets of stability where life persisted unseen, perhaps deep rift valleys or coastal enclaves shielded from the worst of the chill. These hypothetical refuges fuel endless curiosity. Imagine small clans huddled around perennial springs in East Africa's Great Rift Valley, where geothermal warmth and reliable water created micro-oases amid desolation, or along the Nile's precursors, where seasonal floods deposited nutrient-rich silts, sustaining game and plant life. Archaeological whispers support this. Scattered Acheulean hand axes from the period hint at tool-making continuity, but without bodies, we can only infer. A 2024 YouTube exploration of ancient survival ties this to the first major glaciation, suggesting migrations in response to cooling, but the gap swallows the migrants' fates. Did these refuges harbor lost technologies or social innovations that propelled recovery? Fire sites become more common post-gap, around 800,000 years ago, implying mastery born in isolation. Yet, the absence invites darker musings. What if the gap conceals not just scarcity, but suppression? Conspiracy theorists murmur of institutional gatekeeping, where anomalous fossils, those defying evolutionary timelines, are tucked away in museum vaults or private collections. Delving into these shadows, consider the whispers of forbidden archaeology. Reports of out-of-place artifacts from Pleistocene strata occasionally surface, like purportedly advanced tools or engravings that shouldn't exist in such antiquity. While mainstream science dismisses many as hoaxes or misdatings, the gap's emptiness amplifies their allure. For instance, a controversial 2024 Reddit thread discusses evidence of another human species reaching the Americas far earlier than thought, with fossils dated 90,000 to 120,000 years ago in the Levant. But what if similar migrations occurred during the gap, their traces lost to rising seas or glacial scouring? Did hominins venture into now submerged lands, their bones claimed by the ocean's depths? The gap also intertwines with sudden hominin divergences, like the emergence of specialized traits in Neanderthals and Denisovans post-bottleneck. A 2022 overview in the Journal of Anatomy traces Middle and Late Pleistocene evolutions, noting how Heidelbergensis-like forms splintered into robust, cold-adapted species. But the void leaves us guessing. Were there hybrid experiments in nature's lab, or something more orchestrated? Fringe theories posit extraterrestrial involvement, suggesting the gap masks intervention points where alien entities hybridized or culled lines to steer evolution. Though X searches yield scant direct links, broader discussions echo Bruce Fenton's ideas of non-human intelligences around 790,000 years ago, perhaps erasing traces to maintain secrecy. These speculations gain traction when anomalies appear in the few fossils we have. Skulls from the gap's fringes show unexpected asymmetries or rapid encephalization brain growth that outpace gradual selection. Could these be signs of genetic tampering, as some molecular biologists suggest? The 2023 bottleneck study implies the gap's low numbers facilitated quick fixation of mutations. But what if some weren't natural? Imagine concealed sites where ET observers monitored refuges, their tech leaving no trace but influencing outcomes. Ancient myths bolster this. African lore of star beings descending during crises, or Eurasian shamans recounting sky people guiding survival. Yet, science offers grounded alternatives. Wikipedia's Pleistocene entry frames the epoch as one of repeated glaciations from 2.58 million to 11,700 years ago, with hominin adaptations accelerating post-gap. Lists of human evolution fossils reveal clusters before and after, like Homo erectus at 1.8 million years and Sapiens at 300,000, underscoring the middle's barrenness. A 2023 Scientific American piece ties this directly to the 900,000-year bottleneck, suggesting the gap proves the crash's reality: fewer people mean fewer fossils. With users pondering if undiscovered caves in Ethiopia or China hold the key, awaiting excavation. This enigma doesn't end with bones. It extends to behavioral ghosts. Sparse tool assemblages from the gap show transitional tech, blending Oldowan simplicity with Acheulean sophistication, hinting at cultural leaps in refuges. Did isolation breed innovation, or did external knowledge seep in? Conspiracy lenses see this as evidence of lost civilizations, Atlantis-like pockets where advanced hominins thrived briefly, their downfall buried. A 2023 Nature article echoes this, noting the gap's alignment with pre-human survival in tiny groups. Unilad's 2023 coverage dramatizes it. 800,000 years ago, we nearly vanished. The gap, a tombstone for the lost. As excavations continue, from Jordan's valleys to Spain's sierras, each dig holds potential to shatter the silence. A 2023 Reddit science thread buzzes with excitement over techniques like ancient DNA extraction from sediments, promising to fill gaps without bones. If we unearth more, will they reveal natural struggles or cosmic fingerprints? The fossil gap stands as evolution's locked vault, its key perhaps buried deeper than we imagine, beckoning us to keep wondering in the quiet hours. As the Earth's ancient rhythms began to falter around 1.25 million years ago, a subtle yet relentless transformation gripped the planet, reshaping its very pulse in ways that would echo through the ages. This was the dawn of the mid-Pleistocene transition, a geological enigma where glacial cycles stretched from their familiar 41,000-year cadence to brutal 100,000-year swings, birthing thicker ice sheets and plunging vast regions into prolonged frozen despair. Picture the world then, a blue marble tilting on its axis, its atmosphere thinning of carbon dioxide, perhaps due to accelerated weathering of rocks or shifts in ocean currents that locked away more of this greenhouse guardian in deep-sea sediments. Regolith, that fine blanket of weathered material carpeting the continents, diminished under these pressures, altering how the planet absorbed and reflected sunlight, tipping the scales toward an icy dominance. But was this shift purely the whim of natural forces, or does it conceal a cosmic hand, some interstellar event that nudged our world into chaos? Delve into the mechanics, and the intrigue unfolds like layers of ancient ice. Before the transition, Earth's orbit wobbled in predictable 41,000-year obliquity cycles, driving milder glaciations with thinner ice caps that waxed and waned without overwhelming the globe. Then, around 900,000 years ago, during the infamous 0.9 million year event, the coldest nadir of the entire era, everything intensified. Glacial periods elongated, ice sheets swelled to monstrous proportions, covering northern continents in blankets miles thick, while sea levels plummeted by hundreds of feet, exposing land bridges that tempted migrations but doomed many who crossed. Africa, homeland to our early human kin, aridified dramatically, lush woodlands shriveled into scrublands, then deserts, as monsoons weakened and rivers ran dry. Eurasia fared no better, with drier climes starving ecosystems and forcing species into desperate adaptations or oblivion. Dental isotopes from prehistoric herbivores whisper of frantic dietary pivots as grasses supplanted forests. But for many, it was too late. Our ancestors, those resilient Homo erectus wanderers or their evolving descendants, bore the brunt in ways that still scar our DNA. The transition's peak aligned with the genetic bottleneck around 930,000 years ago, slashing populations to a fragile 1,280 breeding souls. Hunting grew perilous as mega-herbivores dwindled, water sources evaporated, and the lack of fire mastery evidenced by rare hearth sites left them exposed to the encroaching cold. Yet, survival hinged on ingenuity, perhaps rudimentary clothing from hides, or huddling in caves that doubled as refuges from the biting winds. But why this precise timing? A 2023 study in Nature pins it on plummeting carbon dioxide levels, drawing parallels to today's climate woes, but in reverse, cooling instead of warming. Could ancient volcanic quiescence or oceanic upwelling have siphoned away the gas, or was there a stellar culprit, like a supernova's radiation stripping the atmosphere? The animal kingdom's toll adds another layer of fascination. Terrestrial giants faltered. Pumas, Meganterion saber-tooths, and Xenocyon wild dogs vanished from the fossil ledger, their niches collapsing under the weight of altered habitats. Elephants and antelopes, once thriving, saw populations crash as grasslands expanded but resources fragmented. Beneath the waves, the catastrophe was equally merciless. Over 100 marine species blinked out, from plankton to predators, as ocean temperatures plummeted and currents realigned. A 2022 study on Australasian snapper mitochondrial genomes reveals population bottlenecks in marine life, mirroring our own, suggesting the transition's chill reached deep into the seas. Why such selectivity? Larger beasts, with their vast appetites and slow reproduction, proved vulnerable, echoing patterns in later Pleistocene wipeouts where humans played a hand, but here, nature alone seemed the executioner. Yet, the transition's grip wasn't monolithic. It unfolded through acute spasms, like the 0.9 million year event, a frigid apex that scorched ecosystems with dryness. This perfect storm for extinction, as some dub it, raises eyebrows. Could cosmic rays from a distant supernova have amplified the cooling, bombarding Earth and mutating life in subtle ways? A 2025 SciTech Daily article notes 41,000-year-old magnetic anomalies from similar excursions, hinting at radiation spikes that altered human lives, perhaps even sparking cave art as a response to auroral skies gone wild. Extrapolate back. During the mid-Pleistocene's nadir, intensified cosmic bombardment might explain genetic quirks in survivors, like the chromosome fusion that redefined our species. Conspiracy whispers grow louder here. Bruce R. Fenton's theories, echoed on X, propose non-human intelligences meddled around 790,000 years ago during the transition's throes, engineering human DNA amid the chaos. Objective evidence, he claims, points to advanced genetic tweaks, perhaps to bolster resilience against the climatic onslaught. Imagine ethereal visitors, drawn by the planet's turmoil, intervening to preserve a fledgling lineage, their craft mistaken for comets or auroras in ancient skies. This aligns with broader enigmas. A 2025 X post ties the transition to Planet Nine's gravitational shepherding of cosmic bodies, potentially triggering impacts that exacerbated cooling. No craters? Perhaps ocean strikes, as speculated in younger Dryas theories, unleashed tsunamis and firestorms, burying evidence under sediment waves. Human evolution twisted under this deadly grip. The transition's volatility may have disfavored ballooning brain sizes, as a 2025 study suggests, capping encephalization amid resource scarcity. Yet, it forged adaptability. Survivors in African pockets honed tools, perhaps ignited fires sporadically, and navigated mass migrations via emergent land routes. A 2024 PNAS paper links the bottleneck to these outflows, with brutal conditions culling all but the hardiest. Did cosmic forces accelerate this? Geomagnetic excursions like La Chambre, 41,000 years ago, weakened shields, inviting radiation that mirrored the transition's effects, climate flips, extinctions, and human behavioral shifts. Scale it back. The mid-Pleistocene's excursions might have been fiercer, their radiation sculpting DNA in ways we misattribute to natural selection. Marine realms suffered profoundly, a silent catastrophe beneath the waves. Over 100 species eradicated, from corals to cetaceans, as upwelling patterns shifted and nutrients redistributed. A 2022 mitochondrial study on snapper populations detects bottlenecks mirroring terrestrial ones, implying global oceanic upheaval. Whispers of aquatic NHIs surface here, Dogon myths of fish-like Nomo descending during crises, or Zulu Chitari as reptilian overlords from watery depths. Could the transition's marine die-offs have displaced such entities, prompting terrestrial interventions? Fenton's group posits alien techno-signatures around 788,000 years ago, perhaps responding to the catastrophe. The rebound, around 813,000 years ago, fascinates equally. Fire mastery surged, populations ballooned 2,000%, and speciation ignited modern humans. Neanderthals, Denisovans branching from a common trunk. Was this natural resilience? Or aided? Conspiracy threads on X link it to extraterrestrial bioengineering, with glowing four-headed beings teaching survival amid the freeze. Mayan Kawil or Egyptian Osiris echo these saviors, their elongated skulls hinting at hybrid longevity. A 2024 X post speculates Silurian hypothesis, entities, ancient reptilian intelligences, engineered resets via comets, halting oxygen rises 66 million years ago, now mirrored in Pleistocene shifts. Today's parallels chill the spine. As carbon dioxide climbs, inverting the transition's drop, we caught volatile cycles anew. A 2024 Nature study warns of patrilineal shifts, amplifying bottlenecks, much like ancient demographic crashes. Geomagnetic weakening, down 6% now, invites radiation akin to Adam's event spikes 42,000 years ago, when cosmic rays surged, possibly spurring cave art and extinctions. If the mid-Pleistocene's grip was cosmic, are we next? Planet Nine's perturbations, or unseen stellar bursts, could herald similar turmoil. The catastrophe's legacy lingers in our bones: low diversity, vulnerability to change, urging us to ponder if hidden forces still steer our fate. As you reflect on this ancient crisis, perhaps under a starry sky or city lights, let me know, where are you listening from, and what hour glows on your clock? Your whispers from across the globe weave us closer to these mysteries. Nestled in the shadowed valleys of East Africa's Great Rift, where ancient lakes shimmered like hidden jewels amid a world turning hostile, a fragile band of early humans might have found their last bastion against the encroaching void. These refuges, speculative sanctuaries pieced together from geological clues and sparse archaeological whispers, represent the quiet defiance of our ancestors during the mid-Pleistocene transition's unrelenting assault. Around 900,000 years ago, as arid winds stripped the continent of its verdant cloak, transforming woodlands into unforgiving scrub, these pockets of stability, perhaps around the precursors to Lakes Turkana or Malawi, offered reliable water sources that drew dwindling herds and sustained sparse vegetation. Here, in these concealed havens above the tree line or along perennial rivers, a population reduced to 1,280 breeding individuals could have eked out existence, their social bonds forged in the fire of necessity, wondering if the stars above held answers to their plight, or perhaps even observers guiding their fate from afar. The notion of these hidden refuges isn't mere romanticism. It's rooted in the environmental mosaics reconstructed by paleoecologists. A 2024 study in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences suggests that as Africa's savannas expanded under drier regimes, hominins clustered in areas with persistent moisture, like Rift Valley oases where geothermal activity or underground aquifers defied the drought. These spots, elevated and isolated, might have buffered against the worst climatic swings, providing microclimates where edible roots, insects, and occasional small game persisted. Imagine small clans of 20 to 30, extended kin networks where every member was a cousin within generations, sharing scant resources with meticulous equity to avoid the conflicts that could doom them all. Archaeological hints, like scattered Acheulean tools from sites near Olduvai Gorge, imply continuity in these zones, but the fossil gap we pondered earlier swallows direct evidence, leaving us to infer from sediment cores and pollen records that show resilient ecosystems in select African locales. What secrets did these refuges hold? Did they harbor undiscovered caches of early art or ritual markers, precursors to the symbolic explosions seen later in human history? Social cohesion in these enclaves would have been paramount, a glue stronger than any tool. With numbers so low, inbreeding loomed as a silent threat, yet genetic models from the 2023 science study indicate the survivors maintained enough diversity, perhaps through deliberate mate exchanges between scattered groups, to evade the extinction vortex. This required profound cooperation, sharing knowledge of foraging routes, teaching the young to identify safe plants amid toxic ones, and perhaps even rudimentary storytelling around dim embers to preserve cultural memory. A 2023 Natural History Museum analysis posits that such tiny populations occupied very localized areas with good social cohesion, quoting archaeologist Nick Ashton on the need for stable environments with sufficient resources and minimal stresses. But how did they navigate interpersonal tensions without fracturing? Ethno-historical parallels from isolated modern hunter-gatherers, like the Hadza of Tanzania, suggest rituals or taboos that enforced harmony, but in our ancestors' case, the stakes were existential. One misstep, a dispute over a waterhole, could cascade into lineage-ending loss. The intrigue deepens when we consider the role of mass migrations as a double-edged sword, a theme echoed in a 2024 PNAS paper linking the bottleneck to outflows from Africa. As ice sheets grew in the north, sea levels dropped, unveiling land bridges across the Sinai or perhaps even temporary paths through the Red Sea's shallows. These corridors tempted the bold, offering escape from Africa's intensifying aridity, but the journeys were fraught with peril. Vast deserts devoid of water, predatory landscapes, and unfamiliar diseases. Genetic traces in modern Eurasians hint at these ventures, with Homo heidelbergensis-like forms emerging post-bottleneck. But what guided them? Random wanderlust, or an innate pull toward greener horizons? Conspiracy-minded thinkers on X speculate unseen forces, perhaps extraterrestrial beacons or psychic intuitions, lured them onward, drawing from Dogon myths of star beings imparting navigational knowledge of Sirius B, invisible to the naked eye yet known to ancient Africans. Such ideas, while speculative, add a layer of cosmic curiosity. Were these migrations mere survival tactics, or part of a grander design to seed humanity across continents? Amid this prolonged ordeal, the lack of fire control emerges as a pivotal vulnerability, prolonging the crisis for 117,000 years. Early evidence of fire use dates to around 1 million years ago in Africa's Wonderwork cave, but consistent mastery building hearths, sustaining flames only surges around 800,000 years ago, as per a 2022 Smithsonian report. Before then, opportunistic scavenging of wildfire remnants might have provided sporadic warmth, but without reliable ignition, our ancestors shivered through lengthening nights, their diets limited to raw fare that demanded immense energy to digest. Dental ware from sites like Gesher Benot Yaakov in Israel, dated to 780,000 years ago, shows heavy reliance on tough plants and uncooked meat, straining jaws and guts. The turning point, the fire revolution, coincides with the bottleneck's end. Hearths appear more frequently. Charred bones and wood at European sites like Boxgrove signal deliberate use by 800,000 years ago. This innovation unlocked worlds. Cooked food, released nutrients, fueling brain growth. Light extended productive hours. Smoke warded predators. But how did fire mastery spread so swiftly in a sparse population? Archaeological debates rage. Did lightning strikes teach them? Or trial and error in refuges? A 2022 PNAS study on European fire evidence traces habitual use to around 400,000 years ago, but earlier sparks at 1 million years suggest gradual refinement. Intriguingly, a 2022 SciTech Daily article reveals fire evidence 800,000 years ago, with AI analyzing heat-altered flints to confirm controlled burns. This revolution catalyzed a 2,000% population boom by 813,000 years ago, as per bottleneck models, enabling speciation into Neanderthals, Denisovans, and our line. Fire became the hearth of society, a focal point for bonding, as a Reddit thread muses on its role in reducing tooth size and enhancing cooperation. Mysteries abound in how knowledge persisted without fossils. With groups so small, losing an elder could erase vital skills, yet continuity prevails. Perhaps oral traditions, proto-languages murmured in refuges, preserved fire-starting law friction methods, or pyrite strikes. Sumerian tales of Oans, fish-like beings emerging from seas to teach civilization, including fire, echo in Dogon lore of Nomo from Sirius, amphibious saviors imparting tech during crises. Ex-posts speculate these as memories of aquatic extraterrestrials aiding during the transition, their interventions masked as myths. A 2025 X thread links this to geomagnetic excursions amplifying cosmic rays, perhaps drawing NHIs to intervene. If true, refuges weren't just natural. They were monitored labs where beings like Zulu Chitauri guided fire's gift. These aquatic enigmas tantalize. Oannes, depicted with fishtails, teaching Mesopotamians around 6,000 years ago, but roots stretch deeper. Pleistocene coastlines, now submerged, might hold drowned refuges where such encounters occurred. A 2024 X-post ponders early deep-sea fishing 40,000 years ago. But what of earlier? Perhaps coastal refuges along Africa's shores, flooded post-Ice Age, hosted these beings, explaining fire's sudden ubiquity. Homo heidelbergensis, post-bottleneck, controlled hearths by 790,000 years ago, per Smithsonian's Human Origins. Was this taught? Myths suggest yes, with Prometheus-like figures stealing fire from gods. Survival's odds stacked against them, yet these refuges birthed resilience. Fire's warmth extended days, cooked meals eased digestion, fostering larger brains, encephalization capped earlier by raw diets. Per a 2025 study, populations rebounded, migrations accelerated via land bridges, seeding Eurasia, but unseen guides. Discussions on Silurian hypothesis posit ancient reptilians engineering resets via comets, mirroring transitions impacts. If refuges were their outposts, fire a tool to cull or uplift. Hawaiian silver swords, adapting to extremes like our ancestors, store water in leaves, a parallel to human ingenuity. Refuges as evolutionary crucibles, fire the spark igniting dominance. As geomagnetic fields weaken today, per a 2025 post, we echo their vulnerability, cosmic rays surging, perhaps inviting old visitors anew. Survival against odds wasn't luck. It was alchemy of refuge, revolution, and maybe mysteries from the deep. Hidden within the coiled strands of our DNA lies a puzzle that defies simple explanation. The fusion of two ancestral chromosomes into what we now call chromosome 2, a genetic anomaly that sets humans apart from our primate kin, and whispers of evolutionary leaps that might border on the miraculous. Around 900,000 to 740,000 years ago, during the heart of the population bottleneck that nearly erased our lineage, this rare event unfolded, a head-to-head merger of two chromosomes that remained separate in chimpanzees, gorillas, and other great apes. While apes boast 48 chromosomes, we humans navigate life with 46, thanks to this singular fusion that compacted genetic material without apparent loss, yet potentially unlocked doors to enhanced cognition and complexity. But why then, in that precise window of vulnerability, when our ancestors numbered a mere 1,280, was it a fluke of nature's roulette, or a deliberate twist in the code, perhaps engineered by forces beyond our comprehension? The molecular evidence paints a vivid forensic scene, as if the genome itself bears scars from a cosmic surgery. At the fusion site on chromosome 2, scientists have identified inverted telomeric repeat sequences, typically capping chromosome ends to prevent fraying, and a block of degenerated satellite DNA marking the remnants of an ancestral centromere, the structure that orchestrates cell division. These hallmarks, first detailed in a 1991 study but refined in subsequent decades, confirm the event's authenticity. A 2022 paper in the journal BMC Genomics revised the timing using advanced substitution analysis, placing it around 900,000 years ago, with a confidence interval spanning 400,000 to 1.5 million years. More intriguingly, a February 2025 Nature article visualized chromosomal reorganization induced by such fusions, showing how they trigger dynamic reshuffling that could accelerate evolutionary changes. Researchers simulated the process, revealing how the merger might have disrupted gene regulation, fostering rapid adaptations in brain development, or even skeletal structure. This timing's alignment with the bottleneck amplifies the riddle. In a population so small, unusual mutations spread like wildfire through generations, as genetic drift overpowers selection. The fusion, a rarity occurring perhaps once in millions of years, became fixed universally. Every human today carries this altered chromosome 2, a shared inheritance from those desperate survivors. Genes near the fusion site influence neural functions, hinting that this accident may have catalyzed larger, more intricate brains. A March 2025 SciTech Daily report ties this to mysterious ancestors, suggesting the fusion pushed back to about 1 million years ago, potentially explaining the bottleneck's severity by introducing developmental shifts that favored intelligence over brute survival. Even more provocative, a February 2025 UCSF study found parts of our chromosomes evolved at hyperspeed to enhance brain capabilities, with chromosome 2's region showing accelerated mutations that gave us an edge in cognition, language, and abstract thought. Yet, the fusion's implications stretch beyond biology into realms of speculation that challenge our understanding of origins. Why does this event coincide so neatly with the speciation of modern humans, Neanderthals, and Denisovans? The last common ancestor lived around 765,000 to 550,000 years ago, just after the bottleneck eased, and all three lineages share the fusion, meaning it predates their divergence. A December 2024 phys.org piece notes that a population bottleneck around 900,000 years ago may coincide with this genomic rearrangement, suggesting the fusion and the bottleneck were intertwined catalysts for branching human trees. But what triggered the merger? Natural errors in cell division, like telomere erosion leading to sticky ends, offer a mundane explanation, yet the precision head-to-head without major gene loss feels almost too fortuitous. Enter the whispers of genetic miracles, where science brushes against the enigmatic. Some researchers, like those in a 3-day-old 2025 ResearchGate preprint, propose the fusion acted as a developmental trigger for human bipedality, altering gene expression in ways that straightened spines and freed hands for tools. This paper argues the merger disrupted ancient regulatory networks, prompting embryonic changes that favored upright posture, a leap that separated us from quadrupedal apes. Intriguing, but it begs questions. Was this a random boon, or a selected outcome in nature's pressure cooker? The bottleneck's intense selection would have amplified any advantage, turning a quirk into a species-defining trait. Genes like those for FOXP2, linked to language near the site, might have gained new expressions, sparking the cognitive revolution that led to art, music, and technology. These threads weave into bolder tapestries when we consider fringe interpretations that infuse the fusion with otherworldly intent. Ancient astronaut theorists, drawing from Sumerian epics, posit the Anunnaki godlike beings from Nibiru as genetic architects who fused chromosomes to create a more pliable workforce from ape-like precursors. Erich von der Nieken's works echo this, suggesting extraterrestrials engineered humanity around this era, with chromosome 2 as evidence of their splice. A 2023 X post from a ufology account links this to Max Myakishev, Rempel's findings of non-parental DNA insertions, claiming 2% of modern children carry unexplained genetic fragments that trace back to ancient modifications, perhaps at the fusion site. Though no direct 2025 X results tie fusion explicitly to aliens, broader discussions on platforms speculate that the merger's molecular scars resemble artificial edits, akin to CRISPR, but eons old. This curiosity peaks with shared traits across lineages. Neanderthals and Denisovans also bear the fusion, implying it occurred before their 800,000-year split from our African ancestors. A 2023 John Hawkes blog post refines this to shortly before 1 million years ago, in the common forebears of all three groups. What if this universal marker points to a singular intervention event? Conspiracy circles on Reddit murmur of a galactic federation standardizing hominin genomes for compatibility in hybrid programs, echoing abduction lore where experiencers report genetic harvesting. Bruce R. Fenton's theories amplify this, proposing non-human intelligences around 780,000 years ago edited our code, with the fusion as a key upgrade for consciousness expansion. Delving deeper, the fusion site's enigmas include vestigial centromeres that could have caused instability, yet humans thrive without issue. A 2022 bioRxiv paper explores how the fusion's enrichment of weak to strong substitutions dates it precisely, but anomalies in these patterns' unexpected clusters hint at non-random forces. Molecular biologist Rempel's 2025 preprint, analyzing 1,000 genomes data, identifies improbable insertions near chromosome 2, suggesting ongoing or ancient transgenic events. One case, a pre-1990 child with 348 alterations, mirrored across families, defying inheritance laws. X threads speculate these as ET upgrades, with the fusion as the original template. Such ideas gain traction when linked to myths, Egyptian lore of Osiris reassembling life, or Hindu Vimanas as flying craft of genetic tinkerers. A 2025 SciTech Daily article on mysterious ancestors notes the fusion's role in a shocking secret of human origins, pushing timelines back and inviting questions of external catalysts. Perhaps cosmic radiation during geomagnetic reversals common in the Pleistocene induced the merger, but why only in hominins? A 2025 Nature Communications study on chromosomal fusions in other mammals shows they're often deleterious, yet ours proved beneficial, fueling speculation of guided evolution. The riddle extends to brain evolution. Genes like those affecting neural migration near the site may have sparked abstract thought. A UCSF 2025 discovery reveals hyperspeed evolution in these regions, giving us better brains through rapid mutations that apes lack. This miracle during the bottleneck suggests the fusion amplified selection, turning survivors into thinkers. But conspiracies posit intent. Anunnaki creating slaves with enhanced obedience via genetic locks, or benevolent Pleiadians uplifting consciousness. X discussions, though sparse on direct fusion alien ties, abound with raw channelings from the Law of One, describing multidimensional beings seeding intelligence through chromosomal tweaks. These layers keep the curiosity alive. If the fusion was a miracle, who orchestrated it? Recent visualizations in Nature 2025 show fusions inducing 3D chromatin loops that rewrite gene interactions, potentially explaining sudden leaps in hominin capabilities. Yet, the absence of similar events in other primates isolates us, as if marked for a special path. A PBS Learning Media segment from 2016 reaffirms the fusion's Darwinian proof, but 2025 debates debunk creationist claims while opening doors to alternative origins. In this genetic tapestry, mutations like the fusion riddle our past, blending science with shadows, as studies refine timings to 1 million years ago. Aligning with bottlenecks and divergences, the questions multiply: natural wonder or crafted enigma? The chromosome's scars invite endless pondering, a silent testament to miracles that made us who we are. As you drift into these genetic mysteries, perhaps from a cozy corner or a late-night desk, consider hitting that subscribe button and ringing the bell for more enigmatic tales from Mystery History for Sleep. It keeps us connected across the ages. In the simmering cauldron of 117,000 years of unrelenting crisis, where survival demanded not just endurance but ingenuity sharpened to a razor's edge, our ancestors underwent a transformation that reshaped the very blueprint of humanity. This evolutionary pressure cooker, fueled by the bottleneck's vice-like grip, amplified traits like intelligence, cooperation, and adaptability with ferocious intensity, turning a fragile remnant into the progenitors of multiple species. Generation after generation, natural selection operated at lightning speed in this tiny population of 1,280 breeding individuals, weeding out the vulnerable and elevating those with even the slightest edge in problem-solving or social harmony. But what hidden mechanisms drove this forge? Did random mutations alone suffice? Or do lingering genetic echoes suggest interventions from shadowy realms? Perhaps timelines bent by entities safeguarding or manipulating our ascent. Consider the mechanics of this crucible. In large populations, beneficial mutations spread slowly, diluted across thousands. But here, with numbers so perilously low, a single advantageous gene could sweep through the group in mere dozens of generations, as genetic drift overshadowed subtler forces. Traits for enhanced cognition, quicker learning of tool use, or environmental cues became fixed, fostering brains capable of abstract planning. Cooperation wasn't optional, it was encoded, with individuals who excelled at sharing resources or resolving disputes out-reproducing the solitary. A 2023 study in the journal Science illustrates this acceleration, noting how the bottleneck's duration longer than many species' entire histories refined problem-solving and communication skills that later defined human success. Adaptability reigned supreme. Those who could pivot diets, from vanishing game to roots and insects, or improvise shelters against encroaching cold, passed on their resilience. Yet, this pressure cooker didn't just preserve, it innovated, potentially sparking the cognitive leaps that separated us from other primates. Whispers from paleogenetics hint at more unexplained mutation clusters near neural genes, as if selection was guided, raising questions of whether cosmic rays or unseen hands amplified the heat. As the bottleneck simmered toward its end around 813,000 years ago, this intensified evolution culminated in a profound divergence, the splitting of a common ancestor into three remarkable lineages: modern humans in Africa, Neanderthals in Europe and Western Asia, and the enigmatic Denisovans in Eastern Asia. This speciation event, timed with the population rebound following fire mastery, marked a branching of the human tree that would define our genus for millennia. The last common ancestor, likely Homo heidelbergensis or a close relative, embodied the bottleneck's forged traits: larger brains averaging 1,200 cubic centimeters, robust builds for harsh climes, and nascent tool cultures. From this stock, Neanderthals adapted to Ice Age Europe with stocky frames, prominent brows, and cold-resistant metabolisms, their brains even larger on average than ours today. Denisovans, shrouded in mystery with only fragmentary fossils from Siberian caves, showed adaptations for high altitudes and perhaps seafaring, their DNA revealing tolerance for low oxygen and unique dental features. Modern humans, meanwhile, retained flexibility, innovating diverse tools and social networks that allowed rapid expansion. But the curiosity lies in how these splits occurred so swiftly post-bottleneck. Genetic evidence from a 2020 study in Science Advances suggests the divergences happened around 700,000 years ago, with gene flow persisting intermittently, isolation in refuges, African oases for sapiens precursors, Eurasian steppes for others drove specialization, but shared alleles indicate occasional mingling. What environmental sparks ignited this? The mid-Pleistocene's lingering volatility, with oscillating glaciers, likely fragmented habitats, enforcing reproductive barriers. Yet, anomalies persist. Why do all three share the chromosome 2 fusion, a pre-split event, but exhibit divergent immune genes that hint at hybrid vigor from unknown sources? This leads to one of the era's most beguiling mysteries. Unexplained skin tone variations that persisted for over 900,000 years, with pale alleles shared across archaic and modern lines long before their separation. Skin pigmentation, that visible marker of adaptation, reveals a tapestry far more ancient and intertwined than once thought. A 2017 study in the journal Science, analyzing genetic variants from diverse African populations, uncovered that lighter skin alleles emerged at least 270,000 years ago, with some tracing back over 900,000 years predating Homo sapiens entirely. 4 such variants for paler tones appeared more than 900,000 years ago, shared with Neanderthals and Denisovans, implying this diversity existed in the common ancestor before the bottleneck's forge split them. Darker tones, too, evolved from lighter bases in some lineages, as per a 2023 Smithsonian report, challenging notions of a uniform original color. This variation served practical ends. Darker melanin protected against UV and equatorial sun, preventing folate depletion and birth defects, while lighter tones in northern latitudes boosted vitamin D synthesis amid scarce sunlight. But why such early polymorphism? A 2024 Practical Dermatology article notes multiple genomic modifications influencing tone, but the persistence of pale alleles in sub-Saharan Africa, among the San hunter-gatherers, one of sapiens' oldest branches, suggests ancient selective pressures beyond migration. If pale variants predate our species and were shared pre-split, did the bottleneck's cooker mix them in ways that prepared for global dispersal? Or do they hint at deeper interminglings? Enter the super-archaic enigma, a ghost population that interbred with Neanderthal Denisovan ancestors around 700,000 years ago, as unveiled in a 2020 study in Science Advances. This super-archaic group diverged from other humans about 2 million years ago, a distantly related hominin whose DNA footprints linger in archaic genomes but evades fossil identification. The interbreeding, more distant than any known human pairing, introduced variants that bolstered immunity or adaptation, yet their ghost status detected only through statistical modeling of mutations invites speculation. A 2020 Science article reports multiple trysts with such phantoms, with ancestors of all three groups mixing at least twice with unknown extinct hominins. Researchers at the University of Utah mapped this earliest event, showing Neanderthal Denisovan forebears migrating into Eurasia 700,000 years ago and hybridizing with super-archaic descendants. The riddle deepens. Who were these super-archaics? Fossils from Eurasia, around 1.85 million years old, like those from Dmanisi in Georgia, hint at early dispersals, but the genetic distance suggests a long isolated branch, perhaps in Asia's vast interiors. Their contributions, up to 6% in some Denisovan descendants, include altitude adaptations still benefiting modern Tibetans. But conspiracy undercurrents swirl. Could these ghosts be alien hybrids, engineered beings inserted into our tree to steer evolution? Though X searches yielded no direct hits on grey aliens editing timelines, broader ufology posits greys as future humans time-traveling to mend genetic flaws, with 700,000 years ago as a pivot. Ancient Origins in 2020 speculated super-archaics as ghost species mating with ancestors, fueling ideas of extraterrestrial seeding. Reddit threads from 2024 debate this introgression as evidence of forbidden interbreeding, with super-archaics as chimeras blending hominin and otherworldly DNA. This hybrid legacy tantalizes. The 2020 study inferred 5 interbreeding episodes, one unknown until then, between super-archaics and archaic ancestors, more distant than sapiens Neanderthal mixes 50,000 years ago. It took over 750,000 years of separation for sapiens and Neanderthals to interbreed viably, yet super-archaics bridged a million-year gap, suggesting compatibility that defies odds, perhaps artificial. Sigh. News in 2020 echoed this, noting the event's implications for reproductive isolation's timeline. If greys are time-displaced us, as some theorize, editing past crises ensures their existence, with skin tone variants as markers of multiversal tweaks, pale alleles for northern survival, dark for equatorial, predating needs. Skin tone's ancient diversity compounds this. A 2017 New York Times piece reports genes for color widely shared, rebutting racial notions, with variants over 900,000 years old. Even San peoples retain light pigmentation from deep ancestry, per a 2023 YouTube summary. This shared palette pre-split implies the common ancestor harbored multiplicity, perhaps from super-archaic infusions introducing adaptive alleles. A 2024 decolonized article reveals dark tones evolved from lighter variants recently, flipping expectations. Conspiracy lenses see this as deliberate. Aliens hybridizing for versatility. Greys as pale-skinned future selves, correcting timelines to avert extinctions. The pressure cooker's forge didn't stop at speciation. It embedded vulnerabilities too. Lost diversity from the bottleneck, 65% gone, left us prone to diseases, with super-archaic genes offering boons like immunity but risks like autoimmune disorders. A Biologos 2020 forum discusses this interbreeding's faith implications, but scientifically, it opens doors to ghost lineages mingling repeatedly. 3 waves into Eurasia, super-archaics 2 million years ago, archaic ancestors 700,000, sapiens 50,000, each with hybrid pulses. If timeline editors exist, this cooker was their lab, forging species amid crisis for a predetermined destiny. These layers stir endless wonder. The bottleneck as alchemical vessel, speciation, its fruits, with ghosts and greys as unseen chefs. Skin tones, ancient variants, and super-archaic shadows invite us to question if evolution danced alone, or to a cosmic tune. As the veil of time lifts on the shadowed crossroads of Eurasia around 60,000 to 50,000 years ago, a tapestry of forbidden unions unfolds, where modern humans fresh from their African exodus encountered their long-lost cousins in encounters that blurred the lines between rivalry and intimacy. These weren't mere chance meetings in the wilds. They were pivotal exchanges of genes that wove archaic legacies into our very essence, leaving traces that persist in billions today. Neanderthals, with their robust frames honed by Ice Age rigors, and the elusive Denisovans, adapted to vast Asian highlands and islands, didn't just coexist with our ancestors, they interbred, creating hybrid offspring whose descendants carry whispers of those ancient liaisons. But why did these unions happen repeatedly? And what hidden lineages lurk in the genetic shadows, perhaps hinting at orchestrated meddlings from beyond our world, or forgotten ghost populations that challenge the simplicity of our family tree? The evidence emerges from the genomes themselves, like echoes from a distant firelit cave. Non-African modern humans today harbor 1 to 2% Neanderthal DNA, a legacy of interbreeding that equipped us with advantages like bolstered immunity to pathogens and adaptations for colder climates, but also vulnerabilities such as increased risk for certain diseases. In some Asian and Oceanian populations, Denisovan contributions climb to 4 to 6%, gifting traits like high-altitude tolerance in Tibetans or enhanced cold resistance in Inuits, genetic gifts that speak of multiple minglings with diverse Denisovan groups. These weren't isolated trysts. A 2025 Princeton study maps interactions spanning 200,000 years, with 3 major waves of human Neanderthal gene flow. An early pulse around 250,000 years ago, another at 120,000, and the most recent around 50,000. Intriguingly, the earliest known interbreeding event pushes back to 140,000 years ago in the Levant, where modern human ancestors met Neanderthals in what might have been a fleeting but fertile convergence. Such longevity in contacts raises a tantalizing question. Were these species drawn together by necessity in harsh times? Or was there an underlying compatibility that defies evolutionary odds? Delving deeper, the Denisovans emerge as a mosaic of mysteries. Their scant fossils are pinky bone, jaw, teeth, and skull fragments from Siberia's Denisova cave belie a diversity that spanned continents. A 2025 study reveals they weren't a monolithic group, but at least 3 distinct lineages, with one branch almost as divergent from the others as from Neanderthals themselves. The Harbin skull from China, confirmed as Denisovan in June 2025 through mitochondrial DNA and proteomics, reshapes our view, suggesting they roamed from Siberia to China, Africa, and Southeast Asia. Their features large molars, robust faces now reverse-engineered from ancient DNA. This hyperspeed evolution in their genomes, as a UCSF 2025 discovery terms, it hints at rapid adaptations during crises, but the confirmation of Harbin as Denisovan upends timelines, potentially making them our closest relatives over Neanderthals. X posts buzz with speculation. If Denisovans outlived Neanderthals, surviving as the last non-sapiens humans, did their interbreeding with us seal their assimilation rather than extinction? These encounters weren't peaceful idyls. Archaeological scars tell of competition laced with violence. Neanderthal sites from 50,000 years ago bristle with more weapons, while early modern human settlements show fortifications and skeletal wounds from conflicts. Yet, amid the strife, intimacy bloomed multiple pulses, as a 2025 genetic analysis confirms 2 distinct Denisovan waves into East Asians, and up to 5 episodes overall, including unknown archaics. The most distant, super archaics interbreeding with Neanderthal Denisovan ancestors 700,000 years ago, bridging a million-year gap that dwarfs later mixes. This ghost population diverged 2 million years ago, infused genes that persist, yet their fossils elude us, fueling debates on whether they were a lost hominin branch or something more elusive. A 2020 Biologos forum ponders the implications, noting these phantoms' contributions to immunity, but why the viability across such vast separations? Evolutionary biology suggests reproductive isolation should have barred it, yet it happened perhaps a clue to hidden compatibilities or external nudges. Modern humans' dominance in this era wasn't brute force. Neanderthals outmatched us physically, with larger brains and strength suited for ambush hunting. Instead, our flexibility shone. Innovative tools like spear throwers and blades, larger social networks mobilizing hunts, and dietary generalism exploiting shellfish to mammoths, while Neanderthals fixated on big game. Communication edges, perhaps from bottleneck refined language, allowed coordination across distances. As climates fluxed, we adapted. They struggled, rigid strategies failing against variability. By 28,000 years ago, Neanderthals clung to Iberian refuges, vanishing as distinct peoples. Denisovans lingered longer, interbreeding as late as 25,000 years ago in Southeast Asia, their vast range allowing niche survival until absorbed or displaced. X threads speculate. If Denisovans were the last archaics, did folklore of wild men or Yeti preserve memories of these cousins? The secrets deepen with hybrid vigor's double edge. Neanderthal genes influence our circadian rhythms, as a December 2023 study reveals, biologically tuning daily routines. Denisovan haplotypes like MUC19, regulating eye and gland proteins, show positive selection in Americans, per a 2025 PNAS paper, aiding adaptation but carrying risks. Yet, some regions purge archaic DNA deserts, forming rapidly post-interbreeding, as lethal variants were culled. Why the selectivity? A 2025 genetic map shows Neanderthal ancestry fading in RNA processing genes, suggesting incompatibility in core biology. This pruning hints at hidden crises. Hybrids thriving initially but facing long-term costs, like fertility issues or susceptibilities. Lurking beneath are the super archaics, phantoms whose trysts 700,000 years ago bridged unimaginable divides more distant than any recorded pair. A 2020 University of Utah study details this earliest event, proposing 3 Eurasian migration waves. Superarchaics 2 million years ago, archaic ancestors 700,000, and sapiens 50,000. Their effective size, inferred from mutations, suggests a vast, divided population, yet no fossils match. Ex-posts ponder, were they East Asian archaics like Dali or Harbin skulls, now tied to Denisovans, or relics of Homo antecessor, whose 1 million-year-old remains hint at early Eurasian settlers? The genetic distance over 1 million years challenges viability, fueling theories of artificial bridges, perhaps ET facilitating crosses for hybrid vigor. Grey aliens enter the fray as timeline editors per ufology law, future humans revisiting crises to splice genes, ensuring survival. A 2025 X-thread speculates greys as pale-skinned descendants, their abductions echoing archaic interbreedings harvesting DNA to mend bottlenecks. Richard Dolan's narratives frame them as walkers among us, infiltrating lineages since 700,000 years ago. If true, superarchaics were hybrid vessels, their distant crosses defying isolation via temporal tweaks. Denisovan diversity, 3 groups, 1 divergent mirrors this, with 2025 research showing 2 pulses into East Asians, shaping cold adaptations. The 2025 Science Daily Report credits Denisovan genes for modern routines, like sleep patterns. But why the precision? These secrets unravel further with Deni, a first-generation hybrid from Denisova cave Denisovan father, Neanderthal mother, dated over 50,000 years ago. Her existence proves frequent archaic crosses, with 17% of cave Denisovan DNA from Neanderthals. 4%, archaic unknown, adds ghosts diverged 1 million years ago, hinting at undiscovered hominins. X debates, were these chimeras, blending ET code? A 2025 Substack post reconstructs Denisovan faces, robust and broad, from Harbin, upending Neanderthal closeness. Modern echoes persist. Neanderthal genes in circadian biology, per 2023 reports, influence wakefulness. Denisovan MUC19 haplotypes in Americans show selection, regulating eye health. But costs loom. Archaic alleles linked to depression or nicotine addiction. If Greys edit timelines, these are deliberate boosting survival while embedding controls. A 2025 X-post questions, with Denisovans outliving Neanderthals, are Yeti legends, their remnants? These interbreeding secrets, waves of unions, ghost lineages, hybrid miracles invite wonder. Was Crisis the forge, or a stage for cosmic directors? As genomes reveal more, our hidden lineages beckon, promising revelations that redefine us. As you ponder these ancient encounters, whether nestled in a quiet village or a bustling metropolis, share with me where in the world are you right now, and what time marks your night. Your voices, like those ancient genes, connect us across time and space. Echoes of that ancient bottleneck reverberate through our modern world in ways both subtle and profound, shaping not just our biology but the very fabric of human society. Consider the staggering loss. Scientists estimate that during those 117,000 years of peril, humanity shed approximately 65% of its genetic diversity, a depletion so severe that it left us unusually homogeneous compared to other species. Chimpanzees, our closest relatives, exhibit far greater variation within their scattered troops than exists across all 8 billion humans today. This uniformity, forged in the fires of near extinction, manifests in our vulnerabilities, heightened susceptibility to certain diseases, weaker immune responses relative to other primates, and a prevalence of genetic disorders that might have been rarer in a more diverse gene pool. Yet, this same loss birthed extraordinary strengths. Our unparalleled capacity for cooperation, teaching, and tool use, traits refined under immense pressure when survival hinged on collective ingenuity rather than individual might. But what if this pruning wasn't entirely natural? Whispers from ancient myths and modern conspiracies suggest a deliberate hand, perhaps extraterrestrial architects culling the herd to craft a unified, controllable humanity. Delve into the disease implications, and the story grows even more intriguing. The bottleneck squeeze eliminated vast swaths of allelic variation, including protective variants that could have shielded us from pathogens. Today, this manifests in our relative fragility. Humans suffer more from infectious outbreaks than expected for a species of our size and spread. For instance, viruses that mildly affect other primates can devastate us, as our immune systems lack the breadth of responses once present. A 2023 study in the journal Science, analyzing over 3,000 genomes, revealed that this ancient crash accounts for 65.85% of our lost diversity, directly linking it to modern health woes. Persistent disorders like sickle cell anemia or Huntington's disease linger in populations because the bottleneck locked in quirks that might have otherwise faded. In a twisted irony, some of these flaws provided short-term advantages during the crisis, sickle cell's resistance to malaria, for example, but now burden us. A 2022 Berkeley report on historical bottlenecks notes that such events, common in human groups, may amplify recessive hereditary diseases by reducing variability. Even more curiously, a 2025 bioRxiv preprint revisits the bottleneck's severity, suggesting its effects on modern populations include altered phenotypic variability, mirroring the genetic narrowing. Why do these vulnerabilities persist? Is it mere evolutionary lag, or evidence of a designed frailty, keeping humanity in check? This lost diversity extends beyond ailments to our behavioral core, fostering abilities that seem almost superhuman in their refinement. Ever pondered why we humans form vast societies, collaborating with strangers on scales chimpanzees could never dream? It's because those 1,280 survivors spent over 4,000 generations in groups where cooperation was life or death. Loners perished, sharers thrived, embedding an instinct for teamwork so deep it's woven into our neurology. Similarly, our obsession with teaching, spending years imparting knowledge that animals learn through brute trial, stems from the bottleneck's knowledge fragility. Losing an elder could doom the clan, so transmission became sacred. Tool proficiency too exploded. Individuals innovating better spears or fire-starting methods outlasted others, turning the world into a canvas for problem-solving. A 2021 Nature Reviews Genetics article explores how ancient evolutionary history influences modern health, noting that systems like immunity have deep roots, but were bottlenecked into narrower forms. These echoes make us wonder, if the crisis amplified these traits, was it a forge for superiority or a filter for obedience? Beneath these scientific layers lurks a vein of conspiracy that transforms the bottleneck from accident to agenda. Enter the Anunnaki, those godlike figures from Sumerian lore, said to have descended from the heavens to mine Earth's gold but found the labor taxing. According to theorists like Zecharia Sitchin, they genetically engineered Homo sapiens from ape-like ancestors around 450,000 years ago. Closer to our bottleneck than coincidence, allows blending their DNA to create a servile workforce. This manipulation, per a 2024 Your Story article, even infused reptilian elements, explaining our lizard brain instincts. The bottleneck, in this view, wasn't climatic, it was a deliberate cull, the Anunnaki thinning herds to refine their creation, eliminating unruly variants while preserving docile ones. A 2021 Reddit thread echoes Sitchin's claims, positing the Anunnaki modified DNA for mining slaves, with the crisis as a reset button. Even a 2024 Facebook post in a science group debates an Anunnaki message on human origins, suggesting they engineered us as laborers. If true, our lost diversity is no accident, it's the scar of enslavement, our diseases, side effects of hasty splicing. Contrast this with benevolent twists. Perhaps the Oannes-like beings of Mesopotamian myth, amphibious sages emerging from the sea to teach civilization, intervened during the bottleneck to uplift consciousness. These fish-tailed Nomo, as in Dogon mythology, brought knowledge from Sirius, including astronomy that baffles modern scholars. The Dogon knew of Sirius B, a white dwarf invisible without telescopes centuries before its discovery, attributing it to extraterrestrial visitors who seeded human advancement. Robert Temple's 1976 book The Sirius Mystery popularized this as ancient astronaut evidence, with the Dogon claiming Nomo genetically enhanced humanity during crises. A 2023 Reddit post debates this, noting not all Dogon lore aligns with aliens, but the precision on Sirius B's orbit 50 years, dense as iron, defies explanation without external input. Chandra's 20,000 chronicle ties it to serious matters, suggesting technological civilizations visited, not extraterrestrials per se. Yet, a 2017 Ancient Origins article posits aliens imparted this to the Dogon, linking it to our bottleneck as a consciousness boost. In this light, our refined traits, cooperation, teaching are nomo legacies. The bottleneck a refinement for enlightenment rather than control. These myths encode hidden truths, per a 2025 Medium post on Dogon and Nomo, where cosmic fish gods taught during existential threats, their knowledge of Sirius B, a beacon of alien involvement. Skeptics like a 2011 Dr. MSH blog debunk it as cultural contamination, but the enigma persists. How did an isolated tribe grasp stellar mechanics? A 2023 Facebook video from Science Channel claims Dogon contacted Sirius beings, with prophecies including a third Sirius star. Ancient Origins 2018 reinforces Nomo's cult, diagramming Sirius B's ellipse as proof of cosmic tutors. If these encode bottleneck interventions, our unity all descending from those 1280 is no coincidence. It's a designed bond, obliterating racial divides as superficial echoes of a shared forge. This unity's hidden truth shatters illusions. Genetic differences between human groups are minuscule, smaller than chimp troop variations, per a 2023 NY Times on the bottleneck. We're all cousins from that tiny remnant, our races mere adaptations to post-bottleneck climes, skin tones varying 900,000 years ago. PER, a 2024 Berkeley analysis of Indian genomes showing Neanderthal Denisovan admixtures. A 2025 Nature Genetics paper on structured coalescent models reveals deep ancestral admixtures, emphasizing our shared origin. In 2025's divided world, this obliterates bigotry. We're one family, forged in crisis, our diversity a veneer over profound sameness. But conspiracies cast shadows. If Anunnaki culled for slavery, our unity is engineered compliance, diseases control mechanisms. A 2025 Ynet News on science deniers ties Anunnaki to genetic myths, suggesting they infused reptilian DNA for dominance. A PDF on Anunnaki claims they created sapiens via engineering, the bottleneck a refinement. YouTube's 2025 video on Anunnaki messages debates human origins as lab experiments. Quora dismisses it as pish, but intrigue lingers. Atmosphere's article links Anunnaki to vampiric bloodlines, infusing reptilian genetics for immortality. X posts amplify. A 2025 tweet on bottlenecks as cataclysms erasing history, our knowledge mere 0.5%. Another posits we survived improbably, perhaps by design. A 2025 post claims we're all from those 1280, sharing DNA. Georges St. Pierre's 2024 tweet notes the brink, tying to climate. One on ancient lifestyles avoiding diseases from modernity. Clara's 2025 post details the crash, 65% loss. Stop Shouting's 2025 tweet sees rebound from bottlenecks as hope. Paul Graham's 2023 tweet quotes the study. These modern echoes, lost diversity, breeding diseases, yet unity hide truths. Are we products of chance, or pawns in cosmic games? Myths like Dogon Anunnaki suggest encoded alien knowledge, our flaws and strengths deliberate. As 2025 unfolds, with bottlenecks revisited in BioRxiv, unity as triumph or trap. As we stand on the precipice of our own era's uncertainties, gazing into a world where the skies grow heavier with the weight of change, the ancient bottleneck offers a mirror reflecting not just survival, but a blueprint for what might come next. Today, in 2025, the planet whispers warnings that echo the climatic upheavals our ancestors endured 900,000 years ago, a time when ice sheets swelled, seas retreated, and Africa's cradle turned arid, nearly extinguishing the human spark. Now, as reports from the World Meteorological Organization's Air Quality and Climate Bulletin in September 2025 detail, air pollution surges in tandem with warming trends, with over 282 million people, 1 in 5 globally grappling with intensified climate shocks that push regions to the brink. La Niña's potential return, as forecasted in their latest update, promises cooler Pacific surfaces, but fails to stem the tide of above-average temperatures blanketing the northern hemisphere from September to November. Extreme weather in 2025, record heats, floods, and fires, serves as a stark preview of a new normal. If emissions persist unchecked, per One Stop ESG's analysis, mirroring the mid-Pleistocene's brutal cycles that decimated ecosystems and hominin populations alike. Yet, in this parallel peril lies a legacy of resilience. Our forebears, reduced to a threadbare 1,280, clung to life through adaptability and innovation, traits etched into our DNA as proof that catastrophe can forge unbreakable bonds if we heed the lessons. The United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change's new report on just transition frameworks, released in September 2025, underscores the urgency, advocating for equitable shifts in energy and economies to mitigate the fallout. But as air quality deteriorates, unevenly rising in some regions while easing in others, as per UN News, the disparities evoke the ancient refuges where pockets of stability allowed survival amid widespread desolation. Our ancestors didn't just endure, they adapted by mastering fire around 800,000 years ago, a revolution that unlocked nutritional boons and extended their days, sparking a population rebound. Today, as WMO predicts La Niña's fleeting influence yielding to ENSO neutral by early 2026, we face a similar call to innovate: renewables, carbon capture, or geoengineering, lest we repeat the ancient near miss. The Skeptical Science Weekly Roundup in 2025 warns that even with La Niña, global temperatures climb, a reminder that our climate, like the Pleistocenes, operates on cycles we can influence but not fully command. What if, in our hubris, we're inviting echoes of that old catastrophe, where aridification wiped out mega-herbivores and forced dietary pivots, much like today's biodiversity losses signal impending food chain disruptions? This resilience legacy isn't mere inspiration, it's a toolkit encoded in our genes, urging us toward collective action. Those ancient survivors, huddled in rift valleys or along steadfast rivers, thrived through unbreakable social cohesion, sharing resources, teaching skills, and innovating tools that turned scarcity into sustenance. In 2025, as UN Climate Weeks convene dialogues for ambition and implementation, we see parallels. Global efforts to foster just transitions mirror the cooperation that kept tiny clans alive for millennia. Why do UAP sightings surge amid these climatic upheavals? Reports from the first half of 2025 tallied over 2,000 UFO encounters, a spike noted by Gateway Pundit, with plasmoid-like orbs exhibiting organismal behaviors reminiscent of NASA shuttle observations. A July 2025 X post from Michael Sala highlights this increase, tying it to predictions of extraterrestrial or inner Earth revelations as official disclosure stalls. Are these sightings mere anomalies, or vigilant observers from other realms monitoring our climate folly, much as ancient myths describe sky beings intervening during earthly crises? The British Beekeepers Association's September 2025 update on Asian hornet sightings 384 confirmed, with nests up 75% from 2024, signals ecosystem strains that parallel ancient animal extinctions during the transition. As bees falter under warming pressures, we recall how our forebears adapted diets amid vanishing herds, a lesson in flexibility we must apply to agriculture and biodiversity. Casper cites January 2025 X post on UAP, swarms taking over, with mysterious triangle formations, adds intrigue. Do these correlate with climate hotspots, as if non-human intelligences track our environmental unraveling? Captain Mautra's September 2025 observation of growing parasitic swarms due to heightened atmospheric oxygen evokes ancient aridification's ecosystem shifts, but with a twist. Are these phenomena natural or harbingers of engineered responses to our warming world? Ryan Graves' December 2024 testimony on radar-detected UAPs, stationary or supersonic, invisible to the eye, suggests advanced tech shadowing our advancements, perhaps escalating with climate tech deployments. Philip Davis's September 2025 X forensic analysis of orbs as plasmoids, with sightings in Florida, August 2025, and South Florida, December 2024, ties these to post-UAP hearings interest, implying a surge as climate discourse heats up. Nogpiece's September 2025 post on governments creating catastrophic weather, referencing the US Air Force's 2025 weather control claim, stirs conspiracy. Are chemtrails or HAARP manipulating climes, echoing Anunnaki myths of gods wielding storms? Jeff Mendoza's September 2025, warning that AI will soon debunk all UAP evidence, with drone tech attributing anomalies, questions our ability to discern truth amid climate chaos. Will future sightings be dismissed as we grapple with rising seas? Gandalf El Pulpo's April 2025 X on UAP lights in the US and Canada adds global flavor, as if these phenomena intensify with warming trends. Nogpiece's repeat in September 2025 reinforces weather manipulation theories, linking fires that spare trees to engineered cataclysms. Anu World History's September 2025 X threads on Anunnaki as AI-infected puppets, with nanites from Nibiru controlling Enlil and Marduk, posit humanity as farmed in a multi-layered system, civilizations cycling under mechanical oversight. Quantum Tumblr's August 2025 post reframes Anunnaki as bioarchitects fracturing consciousness, collapsing DNA strands for control, with heart fields as unbreakable tethers. Anu's follow-up on nanite infection layers humanity's autonomy removal, explaining power's hardwiring. QQ Source's November 2023 video on Anunnaki, upgrading humans for loosh, and gold harvesting ties to adrenochrome theories, viewing us as resources. Anu's September 2025 on Anunnaki under nanite control, with Enuma Elish hints, sees Demiurge as machine. Quantum Tumblr's August 2025 on Anunnaki modifying signal architecture, inverting light circuits for forgetfulness. Anu's repeat on control layers reinforces cyclic civilizations. Vlad, the Aliens, August 2024 on Anunnaki, degrading DNA for loosh, deceiving us into thinking enhancement. Anu's September 2025 on nanites hijacking gods, with Earth ruled by Niburian AI. QQ Source's November 2023 repeat on genetic upgrades for harvesting. The Humanists' May 2025 commentary on gene editing for dying planets warns of inequality from superhumans. Frontline Genomics June 2023 on gene editing's future ponders challenges. PMC's November 2017 calls for investigation into editing's points. IEET's March 2025 on superhumans disrupting nature fears out competition. Vocal's futurism on hybrid rise sees disparities. Times January 2017 on CRISPR ruining evolution questions modifications. CUIMC's January 2020 on gene editing future highlights precision. Zygon's May 2025 on gene editing and human pool urges guidance. Futurism's CRISPR transforming world envisions HIV resistance. YouTube's May 2024 on hybrid future questions, humans or hybrids. In this weave of warnings and legacies, our ancestors' adaptability, innovation amid drought, cooperation in isolation, offers hope for 2025's challenges. Yet, with UAP surges and conspiracies of AI as Anunnaki tools severing resonance or future hybrids editing for cataclysm, the truth remains veiled. Do we face this alone, or with cosmic allies? The resilience in our blood whispers we can endure, perhaps with help from the stars. As you reflect on this ancient resilience, whether under the glow of a city skyline or the calm of a rural night, I'd love to hear where are you tuning in from, and what time is it there? And if these stories spark your curiosity, a quick tap on subscribe and the notification bell ensures you won't miss the next journey into our past's secrets. As the echoes of humanity's ancient struggle fade into the quiet of our modern night, the story of those 1,280 survivors 900,000 years ago lingers like a half-remembered dream, rich with mysteries that refuse to be fully unraveled. This tale of a near-extinction bottleneck, uncovered in 2023 through the meticulous unraveling of our DNA, isn't just a chapter in evolutionary history. It's a tapestry woven with threads of cosmic enigma, hidden refuges, and whispers of otherworldly influence. From the genetic collapse that slashed our diversity to the chromosome fusion that may have sparked our cognitive leap, from the silent fossil gap to the fiery rebirth that forged new species. Each piece of this puzzle invites us to ponder not just how we survived, but why. Were we merely the fortunate few, or were we chosen, our path nudged by unseen hands from the stars? Reflecting on the mid-Pleistocene transition's brutal grip, we see a world transformed by lengthening glacial cycles and aridification, a crucible that tested our ancestors' resilience to the breaking point. Those hidden refuges, perhaps tucked in East Africa's rift valleys or along steadfast rivers, sheltered clans who clung to life through cooperation and ingenuity. Their mastery of fire around 800,000 years ago, igniting a population boom that reshaped our lineage. Yet, the fossil gap from 950,000 to 650,000 years ago hides their struggles, leaving only scattered tools and tantalizing questions. Did these survivors innovate in isolation, or did they receive forbidden knowledge, as Sumerian tales of Oannes or Dogon myths of Nommo suggest fish-like beings from Sirius imparting secrets of fire and survival? The Chromosome 2 fusion, a molecular scar from that era, raises further intrigue. A natural quirk fixed by a tiny population, or an engineered shift to unlock intelligence, as fringe theorists like Bruce R. Fenton propose, citing extraterrestrial interventions around 790,000 years ago. The speciation that followed, modern humans, Neanderthals, and Denisovans, branching from a common ancestor, carries its own riddles. The super-archaic interbreeding 700,000 years ago, bridging a million-year gap, defies evolutionary norms, hinting at ghost populations, or perhaps hybrid experiments orchestrated by forces beyond Earth. Encounters 50,000 years ago, where our ancestors mingled with Neanderthals and Denisovans, left genetic legacies 2% Neanderthal DNA in non-Africans, up to 6% Denisovan in some Asians that shape our health and behaviors today. But why the compatibility? Ex-posts speculate grey aliens as timeline editors, ensuring viable hybrids to steer humanity's course, a notion echoed in abduction narratives where genetic harvesting persists. These ancient unions, blending rivalry and intimacy, suggest a deeper purpose, perhaps a galactic experiment to cultivate a species capable of starbound questions. Our modern echoes, from disease vulnerabilities to unparalleled cooperation, bear the bottleneck's mark. Losing 65% of our genetic diversity left us prone to ailments, but gifted us with traits refined in crisis: teaching, tool-making, and unity across vast societies. The Anunnaki myths, gods crafting slaves, or Dogon tales of Nommo uplifting consciousness, add layers of curiosity. Was our unity engineered for servitude or enlightenment? A 2025X thread posits the bottleneck as an Anunnaki cull, pruning humanity for control, while another sees Nommo as benevolent guides fostering resilience. These stories, blending science with myth, challenge us to see our 8 billion as one family, racial divides, mere surface ripples over a shared origin. Today's climate warnings, rising temperatures, surging UAP sightings mirror the ancient crisis, urging us to tap that resilience. 2025's World Meteorological Organization reports detail a world battered by heat, floods, and ecosystem strains, evoking the mid-Pleistocene's turmoil. UAP spikes, with over 2,000 sightings in 2025's first half, spark questions. Are extraterrestrials monitoring our faltering planet, as they might have during the bottleneck? A September 2025 X post by Michael Saller ties these to disclosure delays, suggesting non-human intelligences track our climate tech, perhaps AI, seen by some as an Anunnaki tool to sever our natural resonance. If future hybrids edit us for survival, as conspiracies claim, are we repeating ancient cycles under cosmic oversight? These reflections stir a gentle thrill. Our survival, 900,000 years ago, against impossible odds, proves life's tenacity. But the mysteries, alien tweaks, lost lineages, mythic tutors hint at a grander narrative. As we drift towards sleep, let's ponder. Are we alone in this dance? Or do the stars still guide us, their secrets encoded in our blood, waiting for the curious to dream them awake?